So we saw Joker.
Yeah, we did see Joker.
Yep, featuring Robert De Niro as the Clown Prince of Crime.
Chris, what did you think of Joker?
What did you think of Joker?
Yeah, I think we both have polar opposite opinions on this.
I think it's a well-produced film. It looks nice, and Joaquin Phoenix does a really good job. It felt to me like the movie itself was confused as to what its message was and what we were supposed to get out of it.
I think the narrative was mostly confusing. I think that was the biggest part. I think I enjoyed the entirety of the film, so I thought the score was really well done.
Yeah.
It was almost kind of like a natural sound of just someone that was just thinking in their head of just something's not right.
Yeah, it felt kind of unbalanced at points, kind of lurching, but also kind of unhealthy feeling to it.
Yes, they took a violin and they did something to it. The acting I enjoyed. Cinematography was gorgeous. But in a way, it kind of has the same problems as It does, Chapter 2. So very early on in the film, Arthur Fleck is with his mother and he's watching this big stand-up guy and he admires him and such. And then the camera goes into the TV and then then we see Arthur in the audience. And my confusion kind of started there because I wasn't sure what the director was trying to communicate. So there's some people on the internet that was speculating that this Joker is hallucinating more often than he is or not. So, but in this one, I just kind of saw it as like he's just projecting himself onto the scenario. And so I thought that wasn't clear.
In the moment, that scene is portrayed very straight almost. So it's not really exaggerated enough to make it clear that it's didn't happen.
That's what I thought would have happened, because if Arthur is actually hallucinating about this, I want to see other things like clowns jumping in the background or something like that.
It wasn't a hallucination. It was just his view of what he wants. What
he wants. And and I think that also the director was trying to show that he's just kind of insane, but that wasn't clear. People daydream all the time.
Yeah, that didn't show any insanity. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The first moment I really got a vibe of that was he was talking to his boss, who was telling him, you have to buy the sign back or whatever for. So and then it's like slowly like moving in on him as he's like smiling, and like the voice of the boss is like fading away, and it's like this creeping intensity that I liked that shot because the way that was executed made me wonder, did that actually happen with the sign, or did something else happen that we didn't see?
That's what I was thinking. And I was actually waiting for a while, like, is the mother actually dead this entire time or something like that? I'm glad they didn't go that route. But
well, yeah, that would have been a little... But that was the first moment of the film that I was genuinely interested. Up until that point, I was like, I'm not really seeing what's going on here. And then that moment, I was thinking, this could be interesting.
Okay.
But they do almost nothing else with that.
Yeah, it's true. But see, that's actually, I'll say that's actually where I differ. Because in the very beginning of the film, that's actually when it really hooked me, because usually with your beginning of your film, you want to establish a hook, something that is kind of like it's going to tell you that that's the theme or the narrative that's going to keep on happening with the film. So in the very opening shot, I was actually kind of surprised. It's really just Arthur Fleck just sitting in front of a mirror, like, there he is, that's him. And then the camera's slowly panning into him, and then you hear on the radio that there's all this junk piling up in Gotham City, and no one knows what to do with it, and it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. And while that's playing, Arthur is just looking at himself in the mirror, and while they're talking about just garbage in general, and they're talking about all this horrible stuff that's going on, you see Arthur, and he's just trying to do the smile, just trying to be happy throughout all of this chaos. And I thought that was a good way of cementing what the film wanted to do in the very beginning, which is just kind of like there's a lot of badness in the world, there's a lot of garbage in the world, and Arthur is this person who's just trying to put on a happy face, but he can't, but he ultimately does because he transforms it into his own way. So I like that.
One element of that didn't work for me, though, was that the world was so disgusting and dark.
It was.
I didn't see how that connected thematically in the way that it was trying to. And by that I mean the main conflict really is like it is a relevant theme to a modern political landscape of a bunch of normal people versus the people with lots of money and power who aren't really doing enough to help the people.
Yeah, and that's when it gets muddled, because I'm not sure like what the film was trying to say.
Because nothing really happened in the movie to further that. Most of the things that happen to him that are bad or make him unhappy are people being exceptionally mean or rude or brutal to him. But that has nothing to do with any kind of theme. It's just like people behaving in this very, in my perspective, unrealistically cruel or rude manner. And it feels kind of 90s to me, and then like
everyone's mean.
Yeah, in like the 80s and 90s, like crime was presented in a similar way in the like, you know, all cities are rampant with crime and like you can't walk down the street without getting shot because everyone's robbing everyone and shooting everyone. It's this like ridiculous portrayal of crime in a city. And in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of political stuff going on that kind of presented that image. So those movies are reflecting that image of the time. And you watch a movie like that today and you're like, you know, this isn't like Miami Connection. It's like, well, yeah, it's like, that's like, you know, this.
An over-exaggeration of it.
Right. It's not a realistic portrayal of people. And this movie kind of felt that way to me. To chase them down and then he gets like the crap beat out of him. For like,
yeah, I mean the whole motivation of kids just beating him up just because,
right? And this is presented like a normal thing in the city. Like this is just how people are right now, or why? How?
See, well, but then also at the same time, you can argue that some of the things that happens to him is because of the fact of who he is. You know, he just starts uncontrollably laughing and he doesn't know how to act in certain situations.
What's so funny?
Yeah, but often when he does that, like people start punching him or like beating him up. It's like, whoa. When I get being like a little creeped out or a little like, okay, you okay? Or what's going on here? But I don't feel that most of the people who interacted with him acted in a believable way. They lashed out violently against him or were very rude or mean to him in a way that felt that I would have liked if it was shown later. Oh, this is just how he perceived them.
That's where I was going with that. That if it's his perception of what is going on, this is the way that the world is, which kind of ties into the theme a little bit because the way that he is viewing the world is just this dark place. Like he's talking to the psychiatrist and says, "All I have are negative thoughts," and then you see his journal. It's his perception. Just everything is just chaos. But that's all
supported by the movie. That's the thing. The movie doesn't tell us, oh, this is this perception and it's skewed.
Yeah.
The movie essentially validates that perception.
Right. Like this is reality. This isn't just Arthur's perception. This is just the reality of the world that he lives in.
So I didn't feel he was crazy, really. Like the movie didn't illustrate to me that his mental issues really changed his perception from reality that much. It made him act in certain ways that were unsettling to people. It's just that the only things that happen in the movie that supported any themes of the people being unjustly treated in some way by the powerful classes were that his person he was seeing as a therapist, who was like a public service worker, that office got shut down, so he couldn't get his meds anymore. He couldn't get therapy anymore. Everything else was just people being total jerks.
I don't know if really you need to have a strong narrative like that in a character study film. Because if you're just doing it just to get to the character point, I don't think you really need to necessarily have this theme.
But what's his character? Well, describe to me the character of Arthur Fleck.
Depressed individual who's had enough of the world and is finally fighting back. That's this version, at least.
But is he fighting back? Well, I mean, the people around him are horrible, so I guess it makes sense that he fights back against them, against abuse. Like, sure, like fighting in self-defense is considered morally justified by most people.
Well, and he never feels wanted by the world, especially when he finally figures out that his mom is just this horrible individual to him and such. And then at the very end, it's like I was saying before, it's like Midsummer. She gets the family, he gets his family, however messed up they are. He finally gets that. One of the things that I do wish that the film expanded upon, though, was that there's only really two other characters that really have a big influence on his life, his mother and his girlfriend.
Right.
And they both just kind of feel like archetypes.
Well, the girlfriend was a fake relationship.
Right. So this is actually something I think that was actually kind of smart in the film, was that he perceives that he was with this girl this entire time, but really she wasn't. And what's interesting is that in the very beginning of the film, when he starts meeting this girl, it's just like typical Hollywood, where it's like, whoa, this escalated so fast. This relationship is just like, oh hi, next scene. Oh, we're making out. Oh, we love each other, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, is this really in a film like this? Really? And then the film's like, I gotcha. So I like that.
Yeah, I just wish they did more with it. That they had some element of, we thought this was reality as we're watching the movie, but then we see it's not.
Right, because to me, I first thought it was just bad writing.
But he wasn't like broken up about it. It didn't change his character. It had no character impact. I didn't feel that he as a character had changed his behavior much through the movie. He was always kind of the same. And he had moments where like he looks like he's a little happier here or there. Like, oh, mom, I just had a hot date, so I'm feeling happier. But that was just a moment of it. It wasn't a continuous change.
Well, you see, and that's why, I agree. I wish that I could have seen a little bit more chaos that was going on. But I think it was the fact, this kind of goes back into the theme that's a little bit muddled, but it kind of goes into the entire idea that Arthur Fleck himself is crazy, and everyone's around him is telling him, like, you got to be this way, you have to be this way. And that's kind of carried throughout the film, where everyone's saying, like, oh, you have to act like this and be like that. And then finally, he just starts acting against everything that everyone thinks that he should be. And then the first time that he actually commits his first murder, he starts realizing, oh, I actually do have an impact on the world.
But is that what he wanted?
Maybe not, but that's what he got, because that's where I feel like that he was a puzzle piece that he didn't know where to fit in. And so it might not be of what he always wanted, but that's where he feels naturally inclined to be.
So the puzzle came to him, right? The slot that he fits in kind of came to him without him.
He's an individual who doesn't fit into society in a general way. He just laughs uncontrollably. He's depressed, sad, all that. And so he finally just kind of figured out how to put himself into this crazy world just by doing it this way. And it's like, oh, anarchy and chaos. Okay, I like that. That fits me. I can do that. When I was watching the film, I never really got this full sense of, this is the film that everyone was talking about. This is the big, edgy thing. Like, this is the scary knife cutting, like wrist cutting thing. You know, it was just something that was pushing boundaries. Like, I thought it's R-rated. I didn't really feel like it was, I mean, like, yeah, it's got some stuff in it, but I never really got the sense that he was doing things that were just out of normal. Just being normal, like he stopped taking his pills, but nothing really happened. Oh, that's a spoiler. But you know, I never see him take a razor blade and do something crazy with it. I don't see like how he doesn't do anything insane.
He's a sympathetic character. Yeah. The movie, it tells you that he's crazy, but it doesn't really show you.
The only thing that the film showed us is when he crawls into the refrigerator. And that's about it.
He was just trying to hide. I mean, yeah, it's not a...
Wait, was that it?
Well, hide like emotionally. It's like you know, it's quiet and cool, I guess. But like from the beginning, I didn't like it at first because I didn't feel it was really giving us much of a character to begin with. They show this guy looking really sad. Okay, he looks really sad and he gets beat up and he's complaining about how his life is terrible. And okay, I don't know who he is. He's just a sad guy, I guess. Am I supposed to be able to feel just like sympathy for him because he's sad?
Right. Well, and then, you know, I think that kind of goes into this whole different approach that Todd Phillips maybe was trying to go for at the same time, which is his perspective of the Joker, because he's saying this is a completely different Joker than we've had before, because he doesn't even want a sequel to this. This is just kind of like his Taxi Driver of the modern day. That's what he wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's very Taxi Driver.
It is very Taxi Driver because you can get whatever you want out of it. There's not really this constraint over what the Joker is, because Todd Phillips kind of wanted to create a different form of it, because I was waiting for that anarchist kind of Joker, and I guess we could get into spoiler territory now, but you get to this anarchist Joker that was in the Dark Knight trilogy films. You know, all the past iteration is like this mastermind of chaos, and I never got that with this. The worst thing that he does is that he shoots the guy he kills a couple people. Yep. And that's about it. You know, I was waiting for him to like blow up an entire city or something like that, but he never does that, which I'm fine with it being like small scale. I loved it. Like the third act was just in a room kind of, and then it escalated a little bit, but not too much.
The city's like breaking out into violent riots. Like right. I would say it's still pretty significant.
But not extreme in the sense of like Suicide Squad. Oh, there's this giant monster and everything is dying.
Yeah,
and
very good. It didn't do that.
Yeah.
Think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
So what's the moral of the movie?
Well, I guess, do you think a movie would have to have a moral?
Well, I mean, kind of. Like, usually there's a message that you get from a story. Like,
I don't know, because at the same time, like, I understand that usually mostly stories are told because you're getting a moral, if you're getting something about it. But at the same time, I think it's okay if it's just a character study of just someone who's just going through life and then you're just seeing the decline of their humanity. Because in reality, if you think about this film, there's no plot. There's no real end goal. You could kind of say that Yeah, I felt like the plot kind of restarted twice, because the first plot point was finally, I am dying, and I wrote a letter to Bruce Wayne, and so I was
Thomas, Bruce Wayne's dad. I think.
Thomas Wayne. And so I thought that's when the plot was actually starting. It was late into the film, and that's when I thought the plot was starting, and then it didn't. And because the next scene he goes to Wayne Manor, and then that's the end of that plot point. Yeah. And then there's another plot point that starts. I think he like tries to figure out like where he is from his backstory. So the entire film, there's no real plot. You just kind of see this descent into him finding himself, I guess. I wish I could say that it was his descent into insanity, but it's not.
No, you can't have him do crazy things if the way he's reacting to the world is relatively normal.
I think what would have strengthened the film a bit more, for me at least, would be if they took his little pieces away from him that kind of made him a little sane. Because from the very beginning, he is kind of the same person. But I think what would make it stronger is that if they told the audience, like, we're taking away this part of him, now this part, this part. Because at the very end, you say, I haven't taken any of my meds, but we don't see it. It's just kind of
no
like,
difference.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm on meds, I stopped taking my meds, I'm off my meds, I'm off my meds. So I think that it would be interesting if they said, they took me off my Prozac. Because in the very beginning, or near the beginning of the film, they say they cut our funding. So that would have been fascinating, like, he stops seeing a psychiatrist, he stops taking his meds, his mother dies. You know, maybe, because in the film, he kills his own mother, but I think it would have been more interesting if it showed that his mother just maybe died of a natural cause, but I don't know.
Everybody who's populating this world is just so unlikable to me. The only likable person here is the deranged killer who's the main character. Like, he's the only one presented in a way that you can like him at all.
Yeah, I do wish that in the film they made him less likable.
Then no one would be likable.
Right. But there was something that I saw about it that I thought was fascinating, that I thought worked better in other incarnations of the Joker. Now the Joker actually has motivation. Now it's personal between him and the Waynes. And I just kind of liked it when he was more insane, and that's what makes it more interesting, is that you never know where he's going to go, who he's going to kill next. It's kind of like with Michael Myers. He doesn't really have a motivation. He just goes around and starts stabbing people, and you might just be in his way. And I think that's more terrifying than just this, because of Wayne, you killed my mom.
It's a trope of screenwriting.
I think it was better if they just left out the Waynes altogether.
Yeah, that would have been better. I felt very little emotion through this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I felt a lot of emotion. Oh. Yeah, and I think it was mostly because of Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker. They did an excellent job of conveying to you that something is not right about this individual. So whenever he gets into a situation where he just starts laughing maniacally or something like that, and you don't know how to feel. For instance, he finds himself in a socially awkward situation, and he doesn't know how to handle this, and then he just starts laughing uncontrollably, and he doesn't know what to do, and it's something that's extremely dark, but you don't know how to handle it. And I was thinking to myself, should I be laughing with him? Should I not be laughing? Like, I'm not sure what I should be feeling right now. And it kind of created this awkward balance of my own emotion of like, what should I be feeling right now? And I found myself kind of laughing like,
I don't think I laughed once.
I think the film provoked a nervous laughter in me.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly what the director was trying to make us feel. So, and for me, and also how the movie was written, there was no plot. So I couldn't really take it as just like this typical movie. I was just kind of seeing this guy's descent into wherever he was going.
It just wasn't enough of a descent for me. I wanted to see more of a shape to his path, and it didn't really, like, you had that scene where they show him entering the girl's room, and then she's acting like, "Who are you? Why are you here? I barely know you." And that's supposed to communicate to us, "Oh wow, he was imagining it the whole time," but it doesn't go anywhere. It didn't really.
He didn't kill her and then leave.
Right. He was pretty much the same before and after that. I didn't feel that his imagined relationship with her was like giving him some kind of strength that kept him going or something. There wasn't,
and that's why I didn't like the two characters, because they were just more archetypes.
Yeah.
It was something that was different, and it was really refreshing to see a superhero film that was done completely differently.
That's one of my favorite things about it, is that it was a very unorthodox superhero film.
Yes, and that's what I loved about it. And that's actually what I wish a little bit more of superhero films would be. This might create a shockwave.
I hope so, yeah. I'd love to see more a movie that could pass as a non-superhero movie, like this. Like, this could be a movie that has nothing to do with any comic books or whatever, and I like that. I do like that a lot.
I think that it could have been stronger in a lot of different parts, but overall, I got an interesting film out of it, and if I had to take everything away that I knew previously about the Joker and just kind of enjoyed it as just a film about some guy who's just kind of depressed and sad, maybe not necessarily insane, well, it's a fine film. I enjoyed it, and I think that Todd Phillips did a good job, but I don't think it's an art house film. I don't think it's one of these big...
It's trying to be.
It's trying to be, and I don't think it is. And especially, I don't think it should be getting this recognition of like Sundance Film Festival and all that. But it's good. I think it's very good. But I don't think it's genius, which I wish it was. I really wish it was the Taxi Driver of our time.
I think it could have been. With a better script, I think it might have been. So if I'm going to recommend something, it's because I think there's something valuable there or something really cool that people can enjoy or that should be recognized. And I struggle to see that here. It looks nice. It's overall well executed, except for the script and the coherence of the plot and the character arc, which is like the main things that a type of movie like this needs. And that it didn't work on those levels for me means it's hard for me to recommend. Okay. It's not bad. I think all the hoopla over it might be a little overblown, but you know, it does address some modern day political issues in kind of an interesting way. It's just not enough for me to really get much out of.
So Spencer says, go try it out.
Yeah. And I say, it's okay. If you want to see it, go see it.